Hi guys, welcome back to the show and this week's movie review, Ghostbusters 2016. Now, this has been one of the most highly anticipated films ever since the trailer was released for like all the wrong reasons. On YouTube, I believe it has one of the highest dislike to like ratios, as well as the backlash that came out when they announced a full female-led Ghostbusters team. So I can't wait to tell you guys how I felt about this film. Let's start with the characters first. We're going to get a full SNL alumni cast. We're going to have Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones. We also even get a Thor sighting in Chris Hemsworth, who actually makes a appearance in this film on more of a comedic side. So we're not used to seeing him be brooding strong guy. We actually get to see more of that comedic element to him, which we got a little bit of a taste of in the Vacation reboot. So it's a little funny that he's doing another reboot again, but he was one of the shining points of this film. I'll say that right off the bat. So where does that take all these characters in this film? Well, it's a reboot, so just like the 1984 movie, we're going to do the same footprints and the same steps that we did before. We're going to take 3 scientists plus Patty or Leslie Jones' character, which I had an issue with that line in the film. That's why I said that. But they're actually going to try to stop a ghost invasion from taking over New York. So basically the same premise of the original film. Like I said, it's a reboot. What else could we really expect? But they're going to add a little bit more flair to kind of upgrade it for 2016. So now with that being said, what did I feel about this film? Was it the dumpster fire that everybody was expecting this film to be? Well, let's kind of talk about that in the goods and the bad. So let's first start off with the goods. Now, the goods of this film, like I mentioned before, Chris Hemsworth's character as Kevin is probably one of the biggest standouts in this film. And it's kind of good that they didn't give us a lot of his comedy that was in this film in the trailers. They just kind of showed you that he was in it, because I probably would have got tired of it and bored of it seeing it before the film than what we actually got in the film. So it was a kind of a welcome surprise in the film, and I think it did good for him and his character and kind of break up a lot was going on. Great thing when you see it with him being kind of like the bumbling idiot and almost kind of a Janine-ish character, which I do want to say, not everybody got typecast as far as, so you're going to be the Egon character and the Winston character, well maybe they did with Leslie Jones, or the Ray character or the Venkman character. They didn't really did that. Everybody kind of had a little bit of all those elements, except for Leslie Jones, mixed into all their characters combined. So I did really like that. So it didn't keep me like, oh, they didn't do it right, or he was a better person versus this character. I think that worked well. Speaking of characters themselves, as far as the Ghostbusters go, I think their chemistry on screen worked really, really well. Well, one, because they are SNL alums, so they've done tons of skits together, being on SNL for like years, that the transition from that show to the screen showed up really, really well. I think it worked really well for who they were, and I think how they actually defined the characters on screen worked well, except for Kate McKinnon's character. Hers was a little bit, but we'll talk about her character a little bit later. Other things that I liked about this film is that it did have a bit of originality. So I talked about it being a reboot and kind of following the same footsteps of the original film, but it did some things differently. Like how they met was completely different. Their dynamics together was different. The villain itself was different, and how they got to deal with this villain was completely different. So I liked it being the same but different. If you're going to do a reboot, you might as well take liberties as much as you can. So that's what they did. I think it worked for what it was trying to do. But we'll start moving on to the bads, so that way I can tell you about how certain things didn't quite work out for me. So the bad to this film is, I guess like I mentioned before with Kate McKinnon, I really didn't like her character. It was Kate McKinnon as a Ghostbuster on screen. It almost like she was doing a skit for SNL of being a Ghostbuster, and it was too quirky, too awkward, too off the wall. And trust me, I know Egon's character from the original film was a little awkward, but hers was just kind of like left field. I just didn't get off to her character. As a matter of fact, I thought I was going to hate Leslie Jones, but I actually liked the way they did Leslie Jones in this film. She was the everyman in the movie. Kate McKinnon she just kind of lost me. Other things that I didn't like about this film is that it came off kind of cartoony in points, to where the original film seemed like it was trying to ground itself and stay serious, even though it was talking about ghosts. This one kind of knew that it was in a comedy, and it just kind of played on the fact that we can be cartoony at time because we're in a comedy. Not so much where, I mean, there's a few scenes with the actual Ghostbusters themselves, but the people around them. Like, as the Ghostbusters tried to take it serious, the people around them didn't. So that came off really, like I said, cartoony. It kind of take you out of the film for a minute, especially a scene that went on with the mayor's office. It kept coming up, and all it did was just make me think that this is not, I mean, I can't take them as serious because nobody else takes them really serious. Other things I've mentioned before doing the Goods podcast is I thought the ghosts, I wasn't really happy about the design of the ghosts. They all looked Haunted Mansion to me, and when I actually saw it on screen, I was going to give it an opportunity to change my thought, but nope. It's basically Haunted Mansion. You could be in the car at Disney World riding through, and those type of ghosts that you see in Haunted Mansion there, that's what we see on screen, as well as the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion film. I still got that same vibe. So that was things that I didn't like about it. That's where we're going to stop with the bads. Like I mentioned before, was this the dumpster fire that everybody was expecting? No, I mean, no, it wasn't. Will it ever replace the original Ghostbusters? No, not at all. If you want to see Ghostbusters, go watch the 1984 Ghostbusters and stay there. Don't think of this one to replace that one. I would say if you wanted to compare the Ghostbusters, is this one better than Ghostbusters 2? Probably. I would probably say that because Ghostbusters 2, it fell short of the first Ghostbusters. This one probably is in the middle of those two. It's not a bad movie, it's just not a great film. And then as a reboot, you kind of have to be a great film to get accepted. And it's one of those things where it's just an okay film. And I believe it's really made for people who weren't big fans of the original Ghostbusters, which kind of brings up the fact that they had cameos in this film that were kind of forced in. Like, they just decided to do them at the last minute. For a film that was trying to be original and stand on its own legs, they forced in some cameos to try to get the older audience back. But for no particular reason, because they didn't really fit for what they did. So I know I said no more bads, but that was my last one. Should you go out and see it? If you're young and you didn't grow up watching the original Ghostbusters, definitely go out and see it. I think it is a fun film without that in your head. If you weren't raised on 1984 Ghostbusters, then this one won't bother you. My kids loved it. I just think it can't replace that one. That's what I gotta say. If you are one of the people who wanted to hate this film from the very beginning, then yes, go out there and see it so you can criticize it to death. It was not the worst film ever. It just wasn't good enough to take the place of the original film. And with reboots, I think that's everybody's expectation, is that you should be good enough to wash the old one from my mind. But like some wise men once said, if it doesn't do any good, if it's not great, or it's not that it's not worth saying that it's better than the original one, we still have the original one. So I'm going to go back after this video. I'm going to go watch the original one, so that way I can get those same feelings of joy that I got from watching Ghostbusters. So, like we say in all these videos, make sure you like and comment below. I definitely want to know what you guys felt after watching this film. Tell me if you liked it, what you didn't like. Tell me about that whole, 3 scientists plus Patty scene. I'm not going to talk about it in this particular video because it's a different type of subject. But tell me what you thought below, and make sure you subscribe, so that way you know about all the videos that we do per week. We do quite a few of them, and I do a movie review, at least one every week. So with that being said, take care, guys. See you next week.